Roman is the biggest bad guy character in professional wrestling.
When's the last time you got laid?
French toast is the exchange student that you have like a 3-week affair with.
Hey, we can see that you don't have pants on.
Can we tell the truth about Dusty sooner or later?
Bro, less people wanted that than are currently watching our
Hey,
streams.
bro.
And you know Vince, and you still think, are these true? It's like...
Welcome to the Mark It Down podcast.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Mark It Down podcast. My name is Nick Cummings, joined this week by Wolverine, who hasn't shaved in a few days. We are back here once again to review AEW Dynamite. This week was Blood and Guts. Very, very important. But we start with the most important thing that happened this evening was the Mets officially sweeping the season series from the Yankees, winning tonight a 12-3 in an absolute.
Anyway, welcome back to the Mark It Down podcast, where we're here to cover blood and guts.
Which is exactly what the Yankees left all over the field as they got blown out. But we actually start tonight with the beginning of the AEW Dynamite.
Not going to curse within the first minute and a half, so yeah. Bravo.
It took place actually in the parking lot of the AEW hotel. We have Alex Scoops Marvez there looking.
The worst part is, I don't think Eric has ever watched a sport in his entire life.
I'm not even entirely sure if Eric knows who Frank the Tank is, and that makes that so much funnier. I know Frank, he's a decent guy. He just goes off the rails sometimes. Anyway, Marvez is in the parking garage at the AEW hotel looking to get a word from Will Ospreay after his loss last week, and that is an understatement to just call it a loss, to MJF, where he lost his AEW International Championship. Ospreay pretty much attempts to blow him off and attempts to get in his car to get to the arena. However, he finds that he has a flat tire due to the fact that a knife was stuck into it.
Where were they?
So they said they were at the AEW hotel. They didn't specify which one, and they were in the parking garage. Okay.
Fair enough.
Will is obviously very upset, and he asks Marvez if he has a car. Marvez says he does, so Will's like, give me the keys. Marvez gives him the keys, and Will throws Marvez his suitcase, and he's like, come on. So they run to the car. Both of them get in. Marvez goes to Will, you ever driven in America? Will's like, nope, and he speeds off because, obviously, he was late to work.
He drove like an American there.
Most definitely did. We then head back to the arena in Nashville. I think they were at Bridgestone. And we start off with a in-ring promo from MJF. He comes out to first a bunch of cheerleaders cheering his name, donned in the red, white, and blue. And if you didn't know where this was going from that, I'm sorry, you probably should have. So he gets to the ring and immediately starts off by calling Ospreay gutless coward for not using the Tiger Driver to beat him. And instead, Ospreay, instead of even just burning his indie kick pads, he should take a long walk off of a short pier. Actually, Ospreay's grandmother just died. So instead, he can save himself some time and just dig a grave next to hers, but it better be a football field away from her tombstone so that fat bitch can have some room to breathe.
Jesus Christ.
His words, not mine. I want that
shouldn't feel good about repeating them.
I did not. I'm sorry to Will Ospreay. MJF then turns to the International Championship itself, saying the people love that title because it's been held by international workhorsemen, which appeals to all of the pores there in the crowd. He doesn't deserve a title like that, especially because he doesn't want to work hard. Instead, he deserves a title that represents his skill, upbringing, and his bank account. And the only place the international title deserves to be is in the trash. And he pulls a Medusa and throws that title into the trash can on the side of the ring.
You know what it felt more like, if I may? Less Medusa, more JBL Orlando Jordan, as they got rid of Cena's spinner U.S. belt and replaced it with like the classic U.S. belt. That's what it felt like to me.
Fair enough. Where'd my notes go? Come on. Yes, MJF then turns to reveal the new American Championship, which actually elicited some USA chants from the Nashville crowd. Which
I don't know what they were thinking by doing this in Nashville. Like, no judgments on anybody, but if there was a crowd that was going to cheer for a U.S. belt, it was probably going to be Nashville.
Or quite frankly, anywhere in the South, but Nashville most especially if they were on Broadway. However, Max then quickly saves that by saying this championship doesn't represent places like Nashville, which again are full of pores. It represents the most magical place on earth, Plainville, Long Island, New York.
I love the one fan in the crowd who screamed before he got out Plainville, Disneyland! It was just...
I heard somebody yell something. I wasn't sure what it was. I'm glad it was that. MJF then, talks a little more bullshit before hitting his "you can thank me later" catchphrase, and then the Stars and Stripes Forever starts playing, and an American flag is unfurled from the rafters, revealing not only a flag, but a flag with MJF's face replacing the stars in the Stars and Stripes.
It was the perfect amount of douchey.
It was great. Ospreay then finally shows up after driving like a madman, probably on the wrong side of the road, to get all the way to the arena, and he chases MJF out of the ring before grabbing a mic. He says that nobody is eating the horse shit that MJF is feeding them, telling him that everybody knows that he was panicking while he was breathing out of his asshole in the 59th minute of their match.
Great line.
MJF was also at the top, by the way, without his mic, just yelling at this point. He was like, nah, easy dub. It was a 2-minute win. Easy dub. Not a problem.
You're making him sound too humble. He said 30 seconds.
Oh, it was 30
second win. Yeah, no, bastard.
He was great. MJF knew that he couldn't beat Ospreay, so Will says that MJF reached into his trunks, passed his tiny little dick, and pulled out the Dynamite Diamond ring to beat him. However, Will has talked to Tony Khan and Christopher Daniels, and he was granted his rematch in his home country at Wembley Stadium at All In for the now American Championship. MJF leaves in disgust, and as Ospreay jumps out of the ring and goes to leave himself, he grabs the international title belt out of the trash and walks to the back with it. So, James, I think I left out a little bit here. I know MJF also called out Swerve, told him to keep his title warm while he was busy. But good stuff here for MJF and good stuff here from Will as well. I think the question is, people are now going to debate whether or not they should have had that match last week and if they can top it in Wembley after the absolute classic they had at AEW 250.
So, couple things to address there. One, we said it last week, or I said it last week. Like a glove, seeing MJF just slip back into this heel role, right?
He's always best at it.
He might have some like old favorites of stuff that he's going to land because it works, whether it's crapping on the local town or talking about how he's the best or talking about the marks, whatever. I will eat that shit up because of how good he is at it. Beyond that, I loved Ospreay. I loved his heat here, and I love how MJF sold being kind of legitimately scared of going against him again. I know Ospreay gets a lot of flack for his promo style. I loved it. I love his promos now, and I think he's really found a way to just sound so genuine.
I think you said it last week. It's very real, whereas MJF is very. It wasn't last week; it was 2 weeks ago. He's very measured and proper. Will's out there, just speaking from his heart and what he feels in that moment.
Absolutely, and I think it suits both guys so well. This clash of styles. To go to your question, should this match have happened last week, or should this match have happened at All In? I think we've seen, or I think it is going to happen at both. I think
it is going to happen at both. It has been announced, obviously, but
I think we have seen both of these guys prove to us time and time again. Wow, they can't do like that was the best match they're ever going to have, and then a month later they do even better. When Ospreay had his first match with Kenny at Wrestle Kingdom in January, I thought there is no way they're topping this. And then they wrestled at Forbidden Door and they topped it. It was incredible. or at the very least, they matched it. MJF is known for having feuds. His feud with Jericho kept getting better and better match-wise. His feud with Punk kept getting better and better match-wise. So he has proven to us time and again, this is a guy who he might be giving us 100% in that match, but his 100% last week isn't the same as 100% this week. His gauge just keeps getting bigger and bigger. So, yeah, man, I think they gave us the best possible match they could have last week, and I think they're going to do it again in Wembley.
Do you think that they might need an added stipulation to help increase this a little bit more? Because I feel like in those other two feuds you mentioned, we did get an increase in stipulation. Yeah. At some point in the feud, I think for the most part, it was the third match. You had the horse collar match, obviously, with Punk. I forget what they did with Jericho, but it got bloody. I do remember that.
Well, blood and guts at one point. Yeah.
Yes, they did do blood and guts at one point. So do you think that it could use some sort of stipulation? And it doesn't have to be something that would elicit such a bloody mess a la horse collar match, but it could be another Iron Man match, considering they went 60 minutes or something else.
I wouldn't be opposed to a stipulation, especially because so far everything on the card does seem to be straightforward singles matches. And MJF has shown that he works well in gimmick matches, and Ospreay also tends to do well when the leash of a regular stipulation type match is taken off of him. But I don't necessarily need it. If they do go for it, I'm all for it, and I'm sure both of those guys will get very creative with it. If they don't do it, I'm just as excited for round 2. Going to the comment right here, Eric saying, the All-In match is much more exciting now than would have been had they not done it last week, a la Adam Cole and MJF last year. I think we did kind of talk about that going into the matchup, that just because they're going to have that matchup then doesn't mean it wouldn't be exciting going into All In. I think the only instance that we've seen of AEW running a match so close to each other that it was just kind of bizarre was the Punk Moxley match. The two matches they had so close together.
And again, that only got fucked up because Punk had somehow never seen Rocky 3.
Yeah. But yeah. Let's see. Eric saying it'll just be a 30-minute match, maybe with a stipulation. I actually wouldn't mind that if they said the match needed to be a certain amount of time. Although it goes, I mean, if they're making that the stipulation, that's fine. But I would love to see what those guys could do with time constraints to make things go fast paced. Because there was a very, and I'm going to say it, guys, I apologize. There was a very wrong contingent of the audience who said that match went on too long last week. You're wrong, guys.
Yes, 100%. I'm almost curious. I said Iron Man match. I am actually, the other one I was looking for was best 2 out of 3 falls.
That would be cool too. We'll be there. The entire pay-per-view will just be that match. But that'd be fun.
I think it would be great.
Sup, Navarro in the comments. Always a pleasure to have you, buddy.
Sup, dude?
Navarro saying MJF is the ultimate troll with that American Championship. Love it. I think we've seen these guys get so creative with belts. We haven't had it in a while, but the TNT belt was always getting something flashy. And now very much for the gimmick of MJF being this champion, him transforming it into a U.S. championship is kind of perfect. So I don't necessarily want it to stick around, and not just because it's so god-awfully ugly.
It is gaudy, to say the least.
Yeah, it is gaudy. But I do kind of like, I like that international title. I like the prestige of that international title. And I just think it's a good-looking belt, too.
Yeah, no, it was a great-looking belt. And now we have this one with America in the middle. Just a continental United States, though. No respect to Alaska or Hawaii. Right. But then also, you had the American flag, as the actual strap.
Yeah.
And it's a lot.
Yeah. I got to tell you, I don't know why. It's the OCD in me, I guess. It bothers me so much that the American flag on the plate has 4 stars.
Yeah, because there's just not enough space.
It just what is that? And beyond that, it would have been funnier if it was 5 stars. It just would have been funnier. But it is what it is. We move on. We live. We learn. We thrive. But
I haven't gotten a close up of it yet, but there was writing on the side plates, and I wanted to see what it was.
I saw at least one plate said better than you.
Right. Okay, that makes sense. So
at least one plate did. But I don't really know.
But to get back to the Wembley match, I think it's almost kind of a preference thing whether or not you like the fact that they had the match last week, because it just changes your anticipation, I think.
Yeah.
Whereas you would have had probably the same anticipation you had last week going to Wembley had they not wrestled at AEW Dynamite 250. You know, the anticipation of, oh, these guys are, you know, so good. Let's see how their chemistry is. I'm really looking forward to this first time match. Now we know what they can do. And the anticipation is, what in God's green earth are they gonna do to top this? Because it's got to top that last match. It's got to be something crazy.
I completely agree. I'm here for it. All In is shaping up to be a very strong pay-per-view.
Yes,
a very strong pay-per-view. Even though we've seen a lot of these guys maybe interact one way or the other, like spoiler, another title match that was made tonight in the main event. Even though we've seen these guys grapple before in some capacity, I'm excited to see it.
Oh, Fletcher Targaryen coming back. Welcome back, Fletch. My man is
hyped me with the first one. Yeah.
And then took a beat and then finally typed out show. I'm not surprised, my man Fletcher. It was very excited. It was a phenomenal show. I enjoyed this top to bottom.
We had a buddy there, actually. We had somebody who was at the show. Oh, I did, and a lot of the pod met him at WrestleMania weekend. He was at the show. He supposedly had a great time. He's going to let us know a little bit about Rampage, but stay tuned.
All right, cool. So maybe we'll get we have some boots on the ground, apparently, and we'll see what happens with that. All right, let's move on. Next up, we went backstage with referee Bryce Remsburg for the coin flip to determine the advantage in Blood and Guts. Remsburg walked into a room where it looked like they were using it for promo pictures and found the Elite, minus Hangman Adam Page, obviously, standing over a downed Christopher Daniels. Remsburg then walks up to Matthew and meekly is like, I'm here for the coin flip. And Matthew's like, don't worry, I got it. I brought my own coin. The Elite logo on one side, Team AEW logo on the other, and I'll flip it myself if you don't mind. Remsburg, clearly seeing his downed boss in front of him, it's like, yeah, sure, bud. So Matthew flips it. It obviously comes up for the Elite, and Remsburg's just like, okay, sure, I'll go tell Team AEW, and he leaves. Fletcher in the comments saying, if the haters, AEW is here to stay. It's been 5 years. I really hope so. Nicholas then asks Matthew where Hangman is, and Matthew tells him not to worry. They made a deal, and Hangman will show up. Matthew then begins hyping them up for the fact that it's Blood and Guts, and they all start doing the bro rah-rah stuff before he reveals to the camera that he actually had a trick coin and both sides had the Elite logo on it. So already, James, some underhanded tactics from the Elite, but I think the weirder thing here is almost just the throwaway, we beat the shit out of Christopher Daniels. That wasn't brought up again.
No repercussions.
It just came out of nowhere.
I hope it's brought up next week and it leads to more. But I don't know what punishment they could really receive. The Bucks already have a title match. Another title match was made. I'm going to go out on a limb and say something that happened in the match is going to set up another title match at the show as well. So I'm very interested to see what could be done to punish them.
They have ironclad contracts. It doesn't matter. They learned from the Big Show.
I mean, hey, no BS. He's there.
Yeah, that's true. We then went back to the ring for our next match. We saw Chris Jericho face off against Murder Grandpa Minoru Suzuki for the FTW Championship. This match started really fun because these two just got in a chop battle, and Suzuki was murdering Jericho's chest to the point where Suzuki sliced it open. That also led to a really cool chop forever chant as we headed into the break. And that battle lasted throughout the picture-in-picture until we came back, and eventually Jericho broke it with a kick to the mix section. Eventually, though, they went to the outside, and Suzuki went after Jericho's hand, which he had injured from the continuous chopping that Suzuki just no-sold for 10 minutes. And he actually took 2 chairs and smashed Jericho's hand in between them, the way Brian Keith had done to Katsuyori Shibata a few weeks ago. Back in the ring, Suzuki hit the ropes and ducked under Jericho to get in the sleeper hold, eventually transitioning into his Gotch-style pile driver that he always does. But when he went for that, Jericho was able to get out of it and countered into the walls of Jericho. Suzuki was able to flip over and fight his way out. And again, after he got up, hit the ropes, drops under, gets in the sleeper, goes again for the Gotch-style pile driver. But this time, Jericho wriggles his way out, gets on his knees, and hits a low blow. Jericho then stands up and hits a Judas effect on Suzuki for the win. After the match, Suzuki immediately gets back up and just rises from the grave.
I loved it. It was terrifying.
It was, and Jericho had no idea. Scared the shit out of Jericho when Suzuki again got him into the sleeper, and this time finally hits the Gotch-style pile driver as revenge. This prompts Big Bill and Brian Keith, who were banned from ringside during this match, to come out, and they start laying a beatdown on Suzuki. But Shibata's music then hits, and the 2 men look towards the ramp to jump him as he comes in. However, Shibata comes in from behind, through the crowd. He takes out Big Bill and Keith, first low bridging Bill to get him out of the ring, and then he took out Keith and then tossed him over the side. I forgot how. That doesn't really matter. But Shibata then stared down Jericho as Jericho had escaped the ring and went up the ramp, and he was holding his FTW championship over his head. So, James, this was just a fun match. I mean, you have 2 50-plus-year-old guys in this match, and considering their, let's call it, limitations, I thought they did a really good job. The chops were a lot of fun. You had a lot of good teases of Suzuki winning, and then Jericho, even though it's legal in an FTW rules match, he has to resort to hitting the low blow to beat Suzuki, and then Suzuki got his comeuppance on Jericho very quickly, and we have Shibata returning after his injury and getting the upper hand on the learning tree and his branches. So I thought it was good stuff all around here.
No, I completely agree. This was a good old-fashioned strong style match. Just 2 guys wailing on each other. Grandpa's chopping meat. Absolutely. Gotta love it. These 2 old men just going to town on one another. Like I said, just good old strong style. I love that stuff. It's not what I want to see every match, but when you have guys who are willing to do it, give it to me. And they brought it. They brought it. I love Suzuki. I love seeing him in AEW. I wish he got more W's. I know this wasn't the match to do it. I know he wasn't going to win a title here, but I would love to see Suzuki rack up some wins. But this was a nice showing. I love that bit at the end where after he lost, he still got right back up. Normally, I'm not a big fan of the no selling, but it just shows how scary he is, and it just shows that it's like Jericho survived him. So I really did like that. Fletcher asking if we want to know a fun fact. Bring it on, Fletcher.
Always do.
But yeah, fun stuff. I don't know how I feel about where all the learning tree stuff is and where it's going. Like, clearly it's still in the orbit of what was Joe, Hook, and Shibata, because Shibata made that save at the end. And that was a big deal because Shibata and Suzuki do have some history in New Japan. AEW did kind of allude to it.
I think Excalibur said something. He was like, imagine how much hatred Shibata must have for these guys to come and help Suzuki, who was an old rival of his. He didn't really delve into what had happened between them, but
they had some brutal matchups in New Japan around close to 10 years ago at this point.
Yeah.
So really just sells how much Shibata wants to take out the Learning Tree group.
Yep.
So, yeah, I mean, hopefully, I know Joe is off filming Twisted Metal, and I know Hook is, learning to see again. But hopefully we get the blow off of this sooner than later. And I want to see who's going to walk away with that FTW title. I still don't know it's going to be Hook.
Yeah, that's true. And I think what we're going to have in the next couple of weeks is I wouldn't be surprised if it's on Collision or maybe next week on Dynamite if we had Suzuki and Shibata end up tagging against two of these three members of the Learning Tree.
Yeah.
And then we'll see maybe if Hook comes back next week or the week after. And then whenever Joe is done filming, he'll make his grand return and we'll have that 3-on-3 match. I wouldn't be surprised if that's it all in, maybe all out, depending on when that is. But I would imagine it's one of the two. So, Fletcher giving us his fun fact. WWE's last 3-hour show of Raw had a total of 55 minutes of commercial breaks and only 2 hours and 4 minutes of actual product. I think I saw last week, and then Fletcher, it might have been you that said this, that there was more wrestling because there was a 58-minute or 59-minute and 58-second match to start the show, and there was only 44 minutes of wrestling on Raw last week or something like that. So
last week's matchup between MJF and Ospreay went 59 minutes 59 seconds, while WWE's Raw had 49 minutes of wrestling that week in total. So
you gotta love it.
Love it.
Also, Fletcher saying that Netflix is demanding Roman on their platform, perhaps, and that could be Roman's the next World Heavyweight Champion. It's possible.
It is possible. By the way, all right, going on a tangent, pull it up.
All right, go ahead.
We're switching companies for a second. I want so much so for Cena to hit number 17 by winning the fucking TNA World Championship.
It's been a lot of people have been saying that already. I should probably check usernames more when I read that because it's probably you.
It's very possible. Let him face Joe Hendry the way Hendry wants. Let Cena take the title off Hendry. I'm here fucking for it.
I believe in Joe Hendry, and I believe in him beating John Cena.
I would actually be fine with that. Let Cena take it from Nick Nemeth the way Cena overshadowed Dolph Ziggler his entire run in WWE, and then have Joe Hendry take the TNA title from John Cena. I'm okay with this. Do it. Give me what I want.
That'd be insane. Fletcher saying that MJF versus Ospreay went longer than Raw's wrestling matches. That's wild.
Yep.
And 10 minutes more. And Eric saying belt collector's gimmick, but with John Cena. Just redo Kenny's and make it better in TNA.
Please. I'm on camera. Don't get me all hot and bothered.
Fletcher's thinking that TNA might get bought by TKO within 2 years.
I don't think they're going to get bought. I mean, look, it's very possible. It is very possible because Anthem, who owns TNA, if they get a good enough offer, I'm sure they will. I don't think they're interested in that because they bought it to fill up their own TV time across their multiple networks on local TV across the country. So for them, it's very cheap content with a very good return. Again, anything's possible. But yes, I don't think TNA as we know it today is going to be TNA as we know it in a couple of years. Whether they are going to just straight up be a feeder system to WWE or they are going to be owned by WWE or TKO, something is going to change sooner than later. And I hate it. As a TNA guy, I am devastated. But
we fear change.
What?
We fear change.
We do. It's never been good. But back to our regularly scheduled programming.
Yep. All right. Let's use that to move on to our next segment, which was supposed to be a backstage interview with new CMLL Women's Champion Willow Nightingale. I don't know where James is going or why he's upset.
No, I'm not going anywhere. I just get a phone call made my phone vibrate off the table and hit the floor.
Oh, $2. Anyway, congratulations to Willow for winning that title. She won the title vacated by Stephanie Vicar. And so Renee asked her about how she feels winning that title. Hello, Joseph Ricci. Thank you for joining us. But before Willow can really answer Renee's question, Stokely Hathaway appears next to Willow, and then she's immediately jumped by Chris Statlander. Stat takes Willow and throws her into a bunch of road cases, and then I believe power bombed her onto said road cases, leaving her lying. Stat grabs the title, and Stokely sits down next to Willow, or really in front of her, and he proposes that there should be an eliminator match next week on Dynamite between Statlander and Willow Nightingale for that title. Stat then throws the title back at Willow, and the two leave. So, James, we're doing the, hey, it's foreign title eliminator match thing again.
Yep. Why not? So she has to win it, right?
I feel like she might.
At least the eliminator she has to win.
Yeah.
Because how do you have Willow go over twice? Or is it 3 times at this point?
Well,
no, it's twice. It would be twice. Yeah.
Well, one of them was a tag match. So
I love that we are perfectly blocking it.
Boo.
I
mean, not bonk.
Not bonk?
Well, I was gonna say not really, and then I was like, you know what, just bonk.
Yeah.
All right. After this, we went to commercial and came back to a snippet of a interview with Bryan Danielson that was recorded previously with Renee Paquette, and this will be, on AEW's YouTube channel, probably about now. But they wanted to show us towards the end of the interview. So it started with Bryan mentioning some of the things that he and Doc Samson have been talking about in terms of his neck, saying that it is currently fixable, and he and Doc Samson want to keep it fixable. So there's, certain routines and, things they need to do and to make sure that his neck will be fine. The pair are then interrupted by Jeff Jarrett, politely interrupted, who says that he's been listening to the whole thing. And while he was upset that he fell short in the Owen Hart tournament, Bryan was able to overcome the odds that he couldn't, and he couldn't have been prouder to raise Ryan's hand in Calgary. But Bryan at Wembley is going to be facing a champion who is dialed in and knows what he's going to have to do to retain his title, where it almost seems that Bryan has 1 foot already out the door. Jarrett says,
too real for me. They're getting too real for me.
Jarrett says that a lot of people believe in Bryan, with himself being at the top of that list. So if Bryan is going to go all in, he needs to go all in. Jarrett then takes his leave, and Renee asks Bryan how that sits with him. And he's like, a lot of that is true. And then he excuses himself and thanks Renee and leaves. So, James, as you said, this is getting very real for you. But I think this might be the first inkling we might have seen that Bryan might be winning this championship.
Dude, stop it. Stop it. Don't do that to me. Cue the Hawkeye meme, don't give me hope. Like, legit.
That's what this was for.
I was thinking, they're not trying to actually make me believe it, right? Like, don't do this to me. I don't deserve this. I'm going to be watching no matter what. So just make me, like, just ease me into it. By the way, I will say, this was a great segment. This was a great snippet of an interview between Bryan and Renee. Beautifully done. They always have incredible chemistry. We've known that since the tout days of WWE. Tout.
Ignore it, James.
Yeah, no, I know. I wanted to address him, but it's probably for the best that we don't. Like, there's a problem with being a Muppet. We should all be so lucky. But anyway, I love the back and forth between the two of them, and I love Jarrett. Good guy, Uncle Jeff Jarrett lately, right?
I get to cheer for him now. It's great.
Because
him and the Slapnuts won me over. I thought they were fantastic heels, and like I love seeing them. And now I get to cheer for Jarrett. This is. I mean, I can't believe it, but
seriously, I always want to cheer for Jay Lethal, so I'm not mad at this. But whatever, we'll get to that. I did find it really funny that Jeff stood the his entire interaction with Bryan, and then he sat down for less than 10 seconds to deliver one line to just get right back up again. I thought that was like so silly and so staged for the sake of it, but it was still it was a very
the most important line. So
it was.
He had to get at eye level with Bryan.
Emphasis. Look, they all know that we don't think Bryan has a chance in hell at winning this title. I really want to believe. I really want to believe he has a shot, even if it's for a fucking week, even if he vacates it that night. I really want to believe. So, hey man, if they're really going to do this, let's build a hell of a story here. Let's do it. Let's do it. I know there are a lot of people that still think Hangman should have been the guy to win it. And maybe they're not entirely wrong. But fuck it. I am 100% behind the American Dragon here. And nothing against Swerve. He needs to be AEW champion before he calls it a day.
Fair enough. Unfortunately for you, Fletcher is seeing this a different way, thinking that this is a neck injury angle that's being built for All In and the house call, saying that Swerve is not going to drop the title because of that neck angle. And then plus you have Swerve versus Hangman 3 incoming. Now, Swerve versus Hangman 3 does not, I don't think, have to be for the title. Four, actually, yeah. That's a good point. I forgot it is 4. It doesn't necessarily have to be for the title. I can understand why people want it to be, but that feud's got enough juice in it where it really doesn't have to.
I agree. And while I do not want this, I wouldn't be shocked to see Hangman interject himself in that matchup. I don't want it. I want it to be a straight up one-on-one match, but I wouldn't be shocked if Hangman just had bloodlust and cost Swerve the title against Bryan.
It would suck, though, if Bryan's first and more than likely only AEW World Championship win, or probably the only championship he will win in AEW, period. It would suck if it came via a distraction like that. So hopefully it's clean, but we'll see.
To address this tweet from Adam Goldberg, the fact that Bryan Danielson and John Cena are calling it on their career very soon, but Chris Jericho is still hanging on, should be considered a felony. Normally, I wouldn't highlight comments like this because everybody should be able to go as long as they want. But Jericho sounded like the pettiest little bitch when he was asked about Cena's retirement announcement. Like, he gave Cena his props a little bit, but he also made it clear, I've been wrestling longer than Cena, but yeah, if he wants to call it a day, he should call it a day. Shut up. Shut up, Jericho. Anyway.
Fletcher also bringing up another good point. They've been teasing Hangman Okada for a while.
I think that match is going to happen at All In, and I think tonight solidified that. So
we'll get to in a bit. All right. Go ahead, James.
And I also just want to say that match will be incredible. It's a match I've been looking forward to since Okada signed with AEW. I know everybody's waiting, and it's not fair to Hangman here. I know everybody's waiting for Okada Kenny 5, but realistically, this match is going to be so goddamn good. So be ready. Be ready, everybody.
I'm very excited. I feel like they haven't really fought since Heyman was still the up-and-coming guy in Bullet Club, if I'm not mistaken. And that match was pretty good, but this is a whole different Hangman.
Absolutely.
Who's been through many iterations of character. So
they wrestled in the Fatal 4-Way at the first at the first Forbidden Door.
True.
But again, it was a Fatal 4-Way. So
yeah. And this is a Hangman out for blood. This isn't that Hangman.
This is a very different Hangman. But we'll see whose alignment will land where.
All right, let's move on to our next match, which saw Dr. Britt Baker, D.M.D, face off with Hikaru Shida. I was already heartbroken going into this match.
I know.
And because I knew it had to happen, I knew why it had to happen, and I love Britt, but damn.
I felt for you, pal. I felt for you. Was she wearing a Harley-inspired gear?
I was trying to figure out what it was. It might have been. It also might have been an anime I've never seen. I don't know. There is that new DC anime, which is this is a Suicide Squad one, so maybe it was that.
Maybe.
I have no idea.
Partner with Warner Brothers. So
yeah, I literally stumbled upon that on Max over the weekend, trying to find something halfway decent in the DC section, but there's nothing left. Fuck you, Discovery.
Yep. And they're raising the price.
Oh, I pay for HBO, so I just get it. I don't pay for Max straight up. Thanks, Grandma. Anyway, I will skip towards the end of this match where after fighting out of an armbar, Shida actually found herself in front of her kendo stick And the camera angle was very good. It was right behind the stick, focusing on Shida's face. And it very much looked like she was very tempted to grab it. And she fought with herself internally and eventually decided not to use it.
Isn't she already a heel?
I have no idea.
I thought she's a heel now.
Despite the fact I love Shida, I have not seen her wrestle in a while. Her last few matches have been on either Rampage or Collision, and I should probably just go look them up. But she's been in Japan for so long. I think she just came back for the Owen most recently. So
Yeah.
no idea if she's heel. At the very least, she was teasing becoming one. Anyway, Britt was able to take advantage of this, and after a couple of strikes, hit a swinging neck breaker that Shida was able to kick out of. The two women then got to their feet, and while Britt tried to take advantage, Shida was able to counter and hit a question mark kick. Shida then went to follow that up with her katana. However, Britt was able to pick her ankle, get her down to the mat, and maneuver her into the lockjaw and force Shida to tap out. After the match, which was very good, I'm not doing it justice by doing the end. After the match, Mercedes Moné came out to sarcastically congratulate Britt on her win, saying that match might be enough to give everyone the answer to the question, will it be the CEO versus the D.M.D. at All In? And Mercedes' answer is no. That no then prompts a debuting Camille to come up from behind and jump Dr. Britt Baker, D.M.D., eventually putting her in the torture rack before throwing her onto the mat. Mercedes then gets into the ring, and Camille, which I completely spelled wrong, seeing it now written out for the first time, stands next to the CEO, and Mercedes has Camille raise her hand. So, James, I want to focus in on the match really quick because I really did enjoy it. Britt and Shida have great chemistry together. I thought they did a phenomenal recap of their history together.
Yes, I agree.
Throughout all of AEW, Britt breaking her nose, the series of title matches they had with both Shida winning and then Britt winning in that first match back in front of fans, and I believe it was Double or Nothing. So just really good stuff out of these two women. And then obviously
make us smaller, producer boy. We can't see it. There you go.
I say obviously I think you're gonna have a lot to say about the debut in Camille, but good stuff out of Shida and Britt, and obviously good stuff out of Mercedes and Camille as well.
Oh no, absolutely. Match itself, great. I did notice, and it's not her fault, obviously. I did notice what I thought was a little bit of ring rust from Britt. It wasn't super noticeable. It wasn't distracting in any way, but we're definitely seeing her get acclimated to being in a ring again, and I'm happy to have her in the ring again.
You can tell, like, when she picked that ankle for the finish, like, she missed it by, like, half a second.
Yeah.
And it was just something so minuscule, but it was just something I've noticed.
Yeah. No criticisms here at all. It's obvious after so long away. They talked about it. She has the second longest women's title reign at over 200 days, 270 days, they said. And she spent even longer away from the ring due to her medical issues. So absolutely, I understand, and I'm not in any way like upset with it. I thought she still put on one half of a great match with Shida. These are two women who have a lot of history, a lot of chemistry, and it showed. And it really showed.
That's why I think they did this match to give Britt somebody who she's familiar with as she gets her feet wet once again.
Absolutely. So well done from both women. I'm just always happy. I know you are. I'm always happy to see Shida on TV, and I'm glad that every once in a while Tony gets reminded, oh my God, I have this amazing talent on my roster. Let me use her.
In his defense, she's in Japan a lot.
I don't want to. I'm not going to.
I know. I'm upset about it too, more than you are. But
I took that
a lot.
I took that excuse with Rio. I'm not going to take it here. But regardless, Kevin Abreu saying this is why Curvin. I'm so sorry, Curvin. Curvin Abreu saying this is why AEW needs a performance center. Look, to an extent, I get what you're saying, but a lot of time it doesn't matter. Sometimes you could be training, and I've seen it with WWE. I've seen it with people who come back through the performance center. I've seen it with people who train their ass off for a return. Until you're in front of the crowd, until you're working the actual however long match, whether it's 10 minutes, 15 minutes, a half hour, or whatever, you're not going to feel it until you're out there again. Everybody kind of says the same thing. You could do all the training in the world to really get you in shape, but you're not back on the horse until you're actually back on the horse.
Yeah,
But,
and I see the benefit that he's talking about, but
yeah,
I would
yeah, of
100%
course.
agree.
Of course, yeah.
It's the same thing. I'll use baseball for an example since it's currently in season. You can go have your rehab starts in the minors, but there's no replacement for playing against major league players. There just isn't. So you can go and train and hit the ropes and even have matches in a performance center or a ring you have set up in somebody's garage or whatever it may be. But the second you actually step in between the ropes in front of a crowd is a whole different ballgame.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But yes, I will agree with you, Kervin. It'll be nice the day AEW gets to that point. But look how long it took WWE to develop a performance center, So give it time. Give it time. AEW's women's division since Mercedes got there. And yeah, they have been firing on all cylinders. They are pretty goated right now.
I'll say it's been before Mercedes has gotten there. I think it really started with Timeless Tony Storm, but Mercedes has definitely kicked it into another gear.
So I agree with both statements. You're absolutely right. Tony is the person who opened the door to fans really paying attention to this roster, to this division. But Mercedes is what, since her debut, we've seen that Tony is giving the women more time.
Yes.
So, Tony Khan. Yes, thank you. So not Shivani. So many instances now of we're seeing at least 2 to 3 women's segments a night.
We got 2 women's matches tonight, and I know one of them was short, but
between Mercedes, between Camille, between Britt Baker, between Shida, between Timeless Tony Storm, between Mariah May, between the Jobber, between Willow Nightingale, and between Statlander, that's 9 women that were on TV tonight. Unheard of a year ago.
Yeah, and that's just Dynamite. You could even look on Collision where your girl Deonna Purrazzo has had she just finished a great series of matches with Thunder Rosa.
Yep.
And if I'm not mistaken, she allied with your other girl, John Morrison's wife. Taya Valkyrie.
Taya Valkyrie. Baby, I am living right now. I am living right now.
Whereas Thunder cut a very emotional promo after her loss. I highly recommend it.
That's great.
No, dude, you should check it out, and I recommend everyone check out both of those promos. They were both really good. So the women's division is cooking. It's just
I'm with Purrazzo. Okay, I don't care what Thunder is saying, but you're absolutely right. The
women's division is cooking, and sometimes you have to go find it. You, James, were a very big fan of Soraya's series of matches with Ruby Soho before she got pregnant on Rampage, of all places.
Yep,
Collision obviously can be a bit of a pain to watch. It's late on Saturday nights. But the fact that they are now getting Dynamite time and a lot of Dynamite time as opposed to previous years is big because Dynamite is still the flagship show, and giving women time on this show is the place where they're going to benefit from it the most.
Absolutely.
But let's get back into this debut here, James, because
we'll just address this one comment from Kervin. What about house shows for AEW to have chemistry? They have done the occasional house show before, and I wouldn't be opposed to it. But I also know that a lot of the talent, as much as they miss doing the house shows because it's just more pay for them throughout the year, a lot of these guys celebrate the fact that they don't have the same hard schedule that the WWE guys do, where they're getting burnt out and they're more likely to, I don't want to say get injured. I mean, it's possible, but the wear and tear on the tires becomes a little more apparent after the house show circuit. So if they did decide to run a couple a month, it might not be the worst idea. But between 4 television shows, if you include Ring of Honor, these guys are getting their reps in.
Yeah. And let's not forget, too, that a lot of these people enjoy the fact that they can have more family time due to AEW's schedule. And people are allowed to also book indies, and if they don't want to have family time or they don't have families, they can go make more money on the side, have indie shows, and continue to get reps as well. So if I'm not mistaken, Swerve Strickland is going to be here in New York on Friday. So I'm very excited about that. I believe I'm going. We'll talk about that more after the show. But James, that's what I was saying. Let's get into this Camille debut. I've heard a bit about her. A lot of people have been clamoring for her to join Mercedes on Square Circle and other message boards. What can you tell us about her, her background, and what this means for her and Mercedes moving forward?
I am so excited for Camille's official debut in AEW. We have seen her on AEW TV before, years ago, when she was still the NWA Women's Champion. Or, in fact, she might have won the NWA Women's Championship on AEW TV.
She beat Thunder Rosa?
Thunder Rosa, yes. So she is a brick shithouse.
No shit.
What happened?
I said no shit.
Yeah, she is going to be a big, meaty woman slapping meat. I'm going to say something that sounds so silly, but I think it's one of those little details in production that I would have changed. One of her things is how big she is, how tall she is, how, powerful she is. And Mercedes wore the highest heels with platforms that I think I've ever seen her wear. And it took away from the dynamic of this woman being her enforcer a little bit. And again, I know maybe that's just a silly detail, and I apologize. I don't want to nitpick. But of all of the days for Mercedes to do this, I thought this was an interesting choice. Camille has been under AEW contract for quite a while now. She has been months and months, supposedly. And they finally found the right time, or Tony finally found the instance in which that he wanted to debut her. I know that she was getting antsy. She kind of alluded to it on Twitter, getting antsy about not being on TV and about wanting to show up sooner than later. So I'm glad that she is. I am a sucker for the little heel with the big bodyguard gimmick. I loved it with Shawn and Diesel. I loved it with Shawn and Sid. I loved it with Brian Kendrick and Ezekiel Jackson.
Kerwin, you're pulling the same thread that you are.
Yeah.
Shawn Michael and Kevin Nash.
Yeah, Kerwin and I on the same wavelength right now. I love it. I'm a sucker for it. I loved it with MJF and Wardlow in the beginning. I think there's always AJ Lee and Tamina. Boom. I'm a sucker for it. I love seeing it. And when you have someone like Camille, who is naturally going to get over, because I'm not 100%. It's been a while. She's a good promo. She's good in the ring. She's got the look. She's going to get over, in my opinion. And when the time comes for her to split from Mercedes, I think it's going to work for everybody involved. It's going to be a hell of a moment. So I'm here for it. All I'm thinking, though, is D.M.D. needs some backup. And in fancy London town, I wonder who that could be.
That would be phenomenal. And I would love that. My only question, I guess, about where was she previously? That was the only thing I didn't know.
NWA. She was the NWA Women's Champion. She
pretty much just
belt
there.
Yeah, only there. Huh. She worked, the occasional indie. I know WWE had a lot of interest in her as well, but she chose to go with AEW. And God willing, it will work. I think she's good enough that she would have succeeded no matter where she went. But this was a huge boon for AEW, and I think it's just enriching this roster, this division even more. So they said we're going to get a proper introduction to her next week. I would love to see her actually just wrestle. I think that would be great. Just get it out of the way. And
no los dos. Get a little promo package and then, a match.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Absolutely. So bring it on. Congratulations on the big debut. And yeah, man, I all four women did great with this time.
Yep. I wanted to jump in with another comment that Kerwin made, saying that he thinks it's a mistake for her to debut right now, saying for him the perfect debut was at All In. Now, James, if we get what you're saying and it's Jamie Hayter, I do think this was the move to do it now.
I agree. Kervin, if there is no Jamie Hayter, you're right. That would have been a big moment. But that would mean that Mercedes needs to win. And maybe that is the case no matter what. But I have a weird stinking suspicion that
Sneaking suspicion, I think is.
I got a smelly suspicion here. That D.M.D is walking away with the gold.
Possible. I could also see Mercedes wins, beat down Jamie Hayter, save. You know, if you do it that way too, to bring her back.
Definitely possible. And that's the beautiful thing. There's a lot of good options here. I don't think anyone's going to complain no matter what we get.
Yeah. Producer Boy also saying that maybe we can get more additions to this crew with Mercedes and Camille. So that's also possible as well. And I think
who would you tag in for that?
I do not know. There's another group that people have been clamoring for on Squared Circle that I don't know off the top of my head. I think Producer Boy had a tweet in the background saying like the not the Rascals, but something with an R. I don't know. The answer is I don't know.
No, fair.
I feel like bringing in more people from the outside, though. Oh, the Renegades. Thank you. That's who it was. Don't know. But that's, I think, who people have been clamoring for. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. I do think Mercedes might get one more person, though.
The Renegade Twins. And I mean, they're already in AEW.
Spoiler alert for Rampage. We apologize for immediately putting it up. But apparently Darby was in the Royal Rumble or Battle Royale after being in Blood and Guts. The dude's a madman.
Yeah, that's insane. That is actually insanity.
Yeah. All right.
That's endurance. Good for him.
He's just nuts.
Yeah.
You know, he probably has insane endurance because he was training to climb fucking Everest.
That's very valid. That is very valid.
He's probably nuts right now. But all right, let's keep things rolling here as we go backstage with Christian Cage and the Patriarchy. Christian is showing off his brand new titles, but he will not come up out of the bowels of the stadium because Nashville is not worthy to see him or his new championships. Those championships obviously being the trios titles that they just won off of the Bang Bang Gang.
Boom. Stupid. One second. I am so happy that the Patriarchy have these belts. I think it's great. I think it's a good move for this group. And it's great for Christian. Seeing him draped in 3 championships is so great for his character. It makes so much sense. Why did they need to vacate the belts for a week when they had this match anyway? Just have them freebird the title and then have them beat the champions, because it's just so weird for the lineage of this belt to have a week off for a vacated position. Just silly.
They can have to get another title reign in, man.
Clearly working overtime. Just silly. I would have just had them beat them straight up. It's just silly stuff. But great bit. And somebody I've been talking about in our chat, or I don't know if I've been bringing him up on the pod. Kip Sabian showing up.
Yep. I'll get to that right now.
Worst mustache ever. Sorry. But otherwise, yay.
After Christian shows off his titles, he announced that his son, Nick Wayne, will be entering the Royal Rampage Battle Royal, which we just saw. And he allows Nick to speak for himself. So Christian and the rest of the Patriarchy leaves. And as Nick begins to talk about his what he's going to do in this Battle Royal, he sees the aforementioned Kip Sabian hanging out in the corner. Nick calls him out for this, saying that he saw Kip outside their locker room a few weeks ago and during their entrance last week, not to mention that they beat the shit out of him a couple of weeks ago as well. Kip says it's just a coincidence and he doesn't really have anything, he's not doing anything, or, he's got nowhere else to be. And Nick, he's like, I know you're in the Battle Royal on Friday. I'm going to throw you out of the ring because you suck, essentially. So
we shall see.
Yeah. Oh, and then he finishes off by saying, and no one cares that your father died. Man up and stop being a bitch about it. Almost forgot about that.
You know what made me feel so bad about it? I didn't even know that his dad died.
Well, so this is something that happened a few weeks ago when I don't remember if this was Dynamite or Collision, because I actually watched a Collision. I know. Where the Patriarchy was cutting a promo and like Kip walked up to them and they just kicked the shit out of him. And it was Christian who had mentioned Kip's dad had passed away. So as Fletcher kind of jumped the gun on me here. I am curious to see if Kip is trying to join the family because he needs a father figure.
I'd be fine with it because I would love for Kip to get a rub. I've been saying it for so long. This guy wrestled the first match on AEW TV. I think he has all the skills and all the talent to be a bigger player. He hasn't found the gimmick or the story to really push him. We came really close with the stuff with Miro, but then that went nowhere because he got hurt.
He wore a box on his head for a while,
which was fun if you were in the crowd, but did nothing for him in the long run.
You know what kind of sucked was that when we were going to the first Grand Slam, I walked right by him and had no idea who he was.
Yeah, no,
I thought he was just some New York City street performer dude just sitting down, being that guy, and motherfucking, I walked right by him not knowing who he was, and then I realized it a couple months later. I was like, damn it. Speaking of people with boxes on their head, I would like to welcome Matt Gascon to the podcast.
Hey, guys.
Matt, I guess you saw Deadpool and Wolverine.
Yeah, that's why we weren't on the air on Monday. But it's funny you mentioned that about Kip Sabian because I did walk past him and I did get a picture. I wish I had it ready right now, but that was a funny one.
So good old Kip. I guess he ditched the Butcher and the Blade to partner up now, maybe with the Patriarchy. We shall see.
We'll see. All right, let us move to our next segment, which I actually forgot to write a bunch of these down, so forgive me. It was actually Pac versus the Iron Savage's Boulder. This match took about 5 seconds. Pac won with a nasty brain buster. Good for him. Next up, we had a backstage promo from Team AEW.
Give me a second here, because I gotta commend how great Pac looked in this win. Like, he was shooting some fire at Boulder. Like, he had him in the corner, and he hit him with a massive European uppercut and a massive running drop kick. My God, he looked like a freight train for such a little guy. Like, again, like, Boulder's a big dude. So this was, it looked like he was moving at, like, Flash-like levels of speed with Superman levels of power. So just excellent usage of Pac. They indicated, though, on commentary, he doesn't care who he wrestles for the international/United States or American title. Does that mean he's not getting this shot until All Out?
Perhaps.
Interesting. But how do you not have him on the card for All In?
He is going to be on this card. He has made it very clear he wants to be, and he's in some way or another going to be. So I don't know if it's going to be by inserting himself into this international/American championship match, or he is going to find something else to do and then fight for that title at All Out or elsewhere. But I'm pretty sure they wouldn't have him running around being like, I'm going to be on All In no matter what, if he wasn't going to be on All In. So I'm sure they'll find something for him to do. Whether that's the title match or otherwise, we shall see.
We shall see.
Yeah, but you're right. He did look really good here tonight, and with good reason. He looks like a man on a mission.
Absolutely.
All right, now we head to that backstage promo with Team AEW, where Swerve started off by saying that this is a battle for AEW's soul, and after asking all of the young men around him last week, he knows that these men are ready to be violent as he leads them into victory, and then Darby cuts him off, questioning Swerve, leading them after all he's done to Darby and to the others, saying this isn't about Swerve, but this is about taking out the Elite. Swerve calls out Darby for trying to do this now, like 20 minutes before their match, saying after this is done, if Darby wants, he can get violent with Darby. Caster then jumps in, saying if sneaky Swerve wants to get violent with the best wrestler in the world, he can, with Bowens backing Caster up, saying, again, this is not about everyone's bullshit. This is about taking out the Bucks. Swerve starts to question them too, but Briscoe jumps in the middle of all of them, telling them that this is not the time to do this. They need to focus on the Elite and winning back the soul of AEW. And he knows this violent men will be able to do so if they just put everything aside and get this shit done.
I don't like how you cleaned up his promo. Like,
Yeah,
you did a good job. You did a fine job of delivering the message.
Look, in all due respect to Mark Briscoe, I can't write out what Mark Briscoe says fast enough because the man speaks at 100 miles a minute, and he speaks in a language that is not. I am not native in that tongue.
You don't speak Tasmanian Devil?
No, I probably speak that better than I speak Delaware redneck. So it was not something I was brought up listening to, and it's a little hard to hear it translated in my head and then type it all out by the time he's finished. So I do my best to get the main notes of what he is saying, but he says it far and away better than I ever could.
I think he said mainly it was, I'm like the guy who fell out of the boat. I'm not in it. So
Yeah. That's how he
I
started.
Paraphrase that, but I enjoyed that line, whatever it was. It was fun. I like Mark's in his little promos. I said it before we went on the air. I think he just needs to tighten them up just a little bit because I think they kind of what's the word? They kind of like, not that they go off topic, but
Meander seems like the right word.
I think he just needs to tighten them up just a little bit.
That's kind of the gimmick with him, though, isn't it? Like, he's a little scatterbrained to the point where he's gonna kind of lose his way in the middle of it and then like get back to where he's was going in the first place. His promos definitely stop and smell the roses.
Yes.
I'd rather have him cut a promo and me be like, oh man, like I can't wait for him to see what he says next, not be like, okay, I've got the point, like wrap it up. You know,
I think
less is more.
I agree with the sentiment of less is more, but it's not necessarily with the length of the promos as much as we're getting them every week. So if we went like a couple of weeks without it and then he brought it back, I'd be like, go as long as you want. Like, I am not a fan of this man that I'm about to bring up, but he did it right. Matt Riddle. When Matt Riddle would do those like weird promos where he would just keep talking about nonsense, half the fun was seeing how long he could keep that going. And I think the same applies here with Mark. How long could he keep it going? But if you do it every week, you're going to lose the magic a little bit. And when you don't have... go ahead.
Also, it's the delicate balance of when he did that first one with the conglomerate, it got really over.
Exactly.
So they want to keep putting it on TV, but at the same time, you don't want to run it into the ground.
Exactly.
But also Kyle O'Reilly helped there too. He's like, I'm so motivated right now.
Yeah. Kyle, and I was just about to say that too. Kyle sold it. Orange Cassidy sold it. Renee sold it.
Orange sold it.
But in doing so, sold it and put it over. So it's, I think we're all on the same page. There's something great here, but tread with caution.
Agreed. All right, moving on, we then came to our next match, which saw Mariah May face off against Caitlin Alexis, who she did a good enough job of losing in 2 minutes. Mariah made quick work of her, a couple of nasty drop kicks. She hit a Mayday in the middle of the ring, and then to stick it to Toni Storm, Mariah hit a hip attack in the corner and a Storm Zero to finish off the match. After the match, Toni's music hit, but it was quickly shut off, and Mariah was laughing at the crowd for everyone thinking that Toni was going to show up. And then Toni snuck in disguise and appeared behind her and showed up. The two then met in the middle, and they started brawling until security came, and they broke everything up. And then Toni got a mic and started shrieking into it, "Are you prepared to die? Because I am," as security continued to hold all of these women back. This was great. Yes. Toni looks like she's going to murder somebody. I think it was Giovanni said that it looked like she was out of Kill Bill, which I thought was great. So
he said,
Matt, go ahead.
He said a Quentin Tarantino movie.
Yeah, it's a Quentin Tarantino movie, which, Kill Bill was just, I think, the first one that came to my head. But Matt, short segment, but did a lot of good work here. Mariah looked like a killer in her first match, granted against enhancement talent, but she looked like an absolute killer. And we have now a bloodthirsty timeless Toni Storm making her return with a huge scar on her forehead.
Yeah, it was short, sweet, to the point. It did what it needed to do to build this match. I would have liked one escape from the you being held back from the refs. Like, especially when Tony's like, "Are you prepared to die? Because I am." That would have been the moment where you break away from the refs and you go and you jump on the girl and then you attack her, and then you have to get separated again. Like we've been over these. I've been over these specifically with you guys. Like sometimes these work, sometimes these don't. I think this one works, but it could have even used a little bit more. But maybe they were pressed for time. Who knows?
Yeah, especially considering Blood and Guts was immediately following it. They probably had a pretty hard out there. But James, like I said, efficient, good work. We discussed last week whether or not we thought Tony should come back this week or next week. They decided on her only selling those injuries for a week, or I guess technically 2. But I thought the return was still very, very good.
No, I agree. I agree with you both, actually. Matt, I'm with you that I would have liked one breakthrough from either of them. It should have probably been Tony, but from either of them. And I thought this was beautifully done. I thought Tony looks that line about are you prepared to die because I am. It was very Undertaker, Brock Lesnar. You're gonna have to kill. No, I'm gonna kill you. You're gonna have to. When Brock said he was gonna kill Taker, and Taker said you're gonna have to, I immediately transported me back to that. They have told an incredible story for many, many months now, and it's surreal to think we're at nearly the finish line for it. I don't know who's going to win. My heart wants it to be Tony, but maybe Mariah, it's her turn. Maybe. But regardless, both women have done a beautiful job, and I'm very excited for their match. I want to see a promo from Tony next week. God willing, they don't get physical, because I really want them to be held apart until they actually go at it. I don't know how possible that is, but I'd rather no physicality until the actual match.
It's going to be difficult. There's, I think, 2, maybe 3 episodes of Dynamite, plus God only knows what happens on Collision and Rampage until All In. So you would have to do that for quite a few episodes of television.
I actually think we have like a month's worth.
Yeah, it's late August. So
yeah, probably unrealistic. But
it's probably closer to 3 or 4 Dynamites.
Yeah,
hedging a little.
Hold on, I'll look it up real quick. But
yeah. So I think it would be difficult. We'll probably see some sort of physicality, and what I do think ends up coming into play at some point, whether it's in the build or during the match, that shoe is going to be a thing. Mariah came down with that and the Owen Hart Tournament Championship belt, and she laid them next to each other on the side of the ring as on the apron as she went into the ring before the match. So don't be surprised if Mariah continues to carry around that trophy for a little while, and don't be surprised if it comes up quite often during this build and or the match at all.
I'm going to ask a very genuine question. Is she the first person to actually wear the belt after the fact? I don't remember.
I feel like maybe the Dynamite after they won, Cole and Britt might have come out with it.
Maybe,
but just the one time, and because they didn't carry it continuously.
Yeah,
and Willow didn't, and I don't even remember who else won last year, which is kind of sad. I genuinely don't remember one on the men's side.
Who won the men's side?
Yeah, they didn't. They did not push the Owen very hard last year, and it was also caught up in the middle of 8 different tournaments that they did. So it made things a little difficult. The Continental Classic ended up being the bigger tournament last year. So,
last year.
Oh God. Okay.
I know.
I'm sorry, Matt. Go ahead, and then I'll tell you who won.
I was going to say, last year, the whole thing was Ricky Starks won it, and we were supposed to get that big payoff of Ricky Starks versus CM Punk at All Out. That didn't happen, so we forgot about the Owen Cup. Yep. But this year's different too, because the winner gets the title shot. That's the first time.
Which is great because it made this so much more important.
Yes.
It led to really cool storylines as we head into All In. So, but to your point, James, I cannot think of anybody who wore the belt continuously. We'll see if Mariah keeps it after this week, or it was just a 1 week thing. But her carrying around that belt isn't just symbolic of that she won won that tournament. It was also her turning on Tony, because it was the weapon that she used to initially take Tony out. So
yeah, no, absolutely.
Carrying both those things, very symbolic in that manner. All right, let us move on now to our main event of the evening. Saw the Elite take on Team AEW in the Blood and Guts match. I, once again, because we had an hour-long match, have about a page and a half of notes, so I will try to condense as much as possible.
I will be right back. Get started, though. I'll be right back.
All right, then maybe I don't have to condense as much, but I'll do my best. We had Jack Perry and Darby Allin as the two men starting off. Perry didn't even let Darby enter the cage. He attacked him just as Darby crossed the threshold so that the match would start, and then they fought through the crowd, and eventually they ended up back in the ring. Nicholas Jackson entered next, and he entered with a chair and a metal suitcase, or it looked like metal. I think it ended up actually being wood, which would come into play later. We then had Mark Briscoe next, and we had weapons strewn all around the ring. And then Matthew Jackson entered. He also had a metal briefcase, which he walked in and DDT Darby right into, damn near breaking it in half. Bowens was the man in after that, and he did a decent job considering Darby and Briscoe were down. But he even hit a finisher onto Jack Perry before Matthew just flung a briefcase right at his head. But this allowed Briscoe and Darby time to recover, and Briscoe countered a TK driver with a cutter, and Darby hit a Scorpion Death Drop. Darby then used his skateboard, which had the tacks on the bottom, to hit an ollie onto Matt Jackson. And Bowens pulled out a pair of golden scissors that he stabbed Jack Perry in the head with repeatedly before running the blade across his open mouth. Ow. Okada was the next man in. Go ahead.
That escalated quickly. I mean, that really got out of hand fast.
It really did, because really, okay, this is normal weaponry. All right, Darby brought out the tack skateboard again. Oh my God, scissors across the mouth.
Spot after spot after spot, like starting with that jumping cutter counter. It was great. But you were saying Okada came out next.
Yes. So Okada comes out with a Rainmaker Boulevard street sign, and he just started swinging away on people with it. Apparently, Okada was a baseball player. I didn't know that. That's really cool.
It feels like a Japanese stereotype right there. It's like, oh, that guy looks really athletic, and he's Japanese. He must have played baseball. Like,
well, I mean, one way or the other, Okada was ending up in the Tokyo Dome.
I just hope next time he'll have a Bitch Avenue sign. Like,
that would be great. Eventually, Okada used that, and he hit a tombstone onto it on Briscoe. Caster then came out with it dressed like he usually dresses for a match, with his mic and the chains, and he came in and just started beating people over the head with the mic, eventually switching to the chains to use that, and then he started using a chair. Caster brought out a plank covered in barbed wire, but it was actually Bowens who ends up getting slammed into it, and then the Bucks created a Bowens sandwich with another barbed wire covered plank, and Nicholas Jackson hit a senton through it. And then Okada grabbed a bag of tacks, and they shoved a bunch of them into Caster's mouth, and the Bucks super kicked him. Then Hangman Adam Page was supposed to enter as the last man for the Elite. However, he did not come out when his music hits, and that allowed Team AEW to make a comeback. Bowens hit a barbed wire scissor me timbers, where he wrapped his knee up in barbed wire, and as Taz nicely said, Jackson's got to be careful. He might have a puncture. And then Swerve Strickland began to make his entrance. However, as he did, Heyman came sprinting out of the tunnel with the chair in hand, blindsided Swerve with it right in the back of the neck, and then handcuffed Swerve to the outside of the cage. Hangman then took out Prince Nana and started beating the ever-living fuck out of Swerve, including hitting him with the title belt. This forces Matthew to grab a microphone and scream at Hangman that they had a deal, pushing Matthew to the point where he threatens to fire Hangman if Hangman doesn't get into the cage. Page is forced to oblige, and Matthew forces the referees to lock the door and ring the bell, as he is an EVP, and fuck you, that's why. But hey, Blood and Guts is finally started. After Hangman gets in the cage, he gets in Matthew's face about only being there to swerve. But as we've kind of teased throughout the show, Okada gets in between Hangman and Matthew, and the two of them have a stare down before Team AEW is able to take advantage of the distraction. After the commercial break ends, Jeff Jarrett comes out, kind of being held back by Sanjay Dutt and his wife, but he is able to keep going with guitar in hand, and it looks like he's making a beeline for Swerve, but he is stopped by executive stooge Brandon Cutler, who finally he's on TV again, and it's
This
just nice
is so weird, right?
Well, he has been on TV the last 2 weeks, but him trying to defend them after not being there for a really long time and then just randomly showing up and getting his ass kicked twice.
And one of them was by them. Jack
was
Perry's
by
the one
Jack,
who-
yeah.
Like, it's just so silly.
He'll always defend the Bucks, I guess. But as Jarrett is being distracted or kind of distracted by Cutler, Daddy Ass comes out and hits him with a right before Jarrett smashes a guitar over Cutler's head. Jarrett and Gunn, after a little bit of finagling, because apparently nobody's used a handcuff key before, finally gets Swerve out of the cuffs. And then Nana hands him a pair of cutting pliers, and Swerve cuts through the chain link fence and eventually gets into the cage match.
Hey, at least the handcuff spot wasn't as bad as the Roman Reigns Kevin
gonna say.
Owens Royal Rumble match. And also props to Brandon Cutler. I love when he got hit with the guitar as he fell. He made sure to fall in a way that the guitar would stay on his head.
Yeah,
Like it was a solid fall, but you could tell he was just being ever so gently with his landing to keep that, that picture in our mind. And I love his look. I feel like I haven't been around, and I love his new look.
He
That was the
hasn't
nicest
been
jacket.
around.
Yeah, that was the
He-
nicest jacket he's worn in a while, though.
And
his
the
beard.
beard. Yeah,
Yep.
that beard is something else.
Also, kids, this is a handcuff key, in case you ever wanted to know.
Why do you have a handcuff key?
Hey, what he does in the privacy of his own home is his business. Just,
My
Withdrawn.
grandfather was a cop.
Withdrawn.
No, this is actually old NYPD police handcuff key
that is pretty cool.
from like the 50s, probably.
It's pretty cool.
All right, so Swerve finally gets into the cage, and he clears house, and we finally have the big Swerve and Hangman stare off, and they meet in the middle of the ring and start their hockey fight. Eventually, there's some chaos, and Swerve is last man standing, and he grabs a staple gun and tries to go after Hangman. However, Matthew Jackson runs over and saves Hangman with a low blow and opens up his briefcase to reveal a whole bunch of staple guns. Each member of the Elite takes them, and they surround Swerve, and they all staple him one by one. But eventually, Swerve is able to turn the tables on them, and he hits them all with big moves and then follows it up with a staple of his own, up until the point where Okada hits a drop kick on him. However, Okada appears like he's going for the Rainmaker, but instead of hitting it, Swerve recovers, hits the middle finger, and Swerve just staples his middle finger.
Beautiful.
A great spot. He then Swerve ducked a buckshot lariat that was meant for him, and Hangman accidentally hits Okada with it, just absolutely leveling him. Swerve then stapled Hangman in the jaw and hit a house call, and then Swerve dragged him out of the cage as we went into a picture-in-picture, and they fought all the way up the ramp and eventually fell off the side of the stage through a couple of tables and were not seen or heard from ever again. I'm
And I
guessing they
love-
went to the black hole.
And I love that it happened during the fucking commercial break.
Yeah, poor timing on that. I'm not even entirely sure that it showed a replay, which is unfortunate.
They talked about it afterwards.
Yes, they
No, I
did
don't
mention
think
it,
they did.
but yeah, considering that was probably the biggest feud you were building out of this,
Yeah.
having it during the PIP was probably the one misstep I think of this entire match. Let's see. The match then also completely spills outside of the cage as Matthew tried to follow that Swerve and Hangman up the ramp, but he's met by Bowens. They get stopped, and the Bucks eventually set up two stacks of tables, too high, too wide, right up against the ring and between the ring and the barricade. Nicholas then starts climbing the side of the cage, and Bowens eventually follows him up, but Nicholas slams Bowens' head against the side of the pillar, and that drops Bowens through the 4 tables, or like more like 3 of them. I think one of them
One of
didn't
them
go.
was fine. One of them survived.
He got 3 out of 4. That's not bad.
Yeah,
It's not.
It's 75%. It's it's still passing grades.
We've been spoiled by some great table spots though recently, like Takeshita El Phantasmo table spot a few weeks back. That was just
Chelsea Greens.
Yeah, Chelsea Green's table spot at the Money in the Bank. Just we've been spoiled.
Yeah, I'm sorry we're complaining, Bowens, that you only went through 3 of the 4 tables.
You know what? If he went through the 4th one, it might have been even safer.
Maybe.
It might have been even safer. We don't know.
Still a pretty
Speaking
safe.
of safe, are we up to that chair shot yet? Or
we're getting there. We're getting there. We're actually where we are is we went back inside the ring to see Mark Briscoe hit 4 consecutive J drillers on the Elite before setting up Matthew on a table and hitting a froggy bow through that. Darby had also, meanwhile, set up Perry on a table, and he fucking scales the inside of the cage like a spider monkey. Monkey bars his way over to Perry, lifts himself up, and does a coffin drop from the roof of the cage onto Perry through the fucking table.
I think he gave him the finger first, though.
Yes, he did flip him off. Somehow, yes, he hung by one hand, flipped him off, and then went through the table. Caster then came to, and he grabbed the Bucks' other briefcase to reveal a series of handcuffs, and Team AEW handcuff whoever they could find of the Elite that was still standing, either to the cage or to the ropes or whatever they could find to tie them down. Briscoe started swinging away on Jack Perry, who, if you saw in our thumbnail, was just arms outstretched, cuffed to the side of the cage, hitting him with consecutive kendo stick shots and telling Perry that he better quit or this is going to keep going. Perry refuses, even spitting in Mark's face at one point. So Darby comes over and yells into a microphone that Perry better not quit. The fun has just started. He walks away, and for good measure, Briscoe, Matt, here it is, just absolutely wallops fucking Jack Perry in the head with a chair shot, completely unprotected. And to make matters worse, it was the chair that Perry brought in at the beginning of the match that said scapegoat on it. Just to add insult to injury.
Real chair?
No, it was clearly not. It's a completely different. You can tell. Look, I like that AEW does these unprotected headshots with the chairs every once in a while. But even going back to Cody, you could tell they're gimmicked chairs, and that's the only reason I like it.
That chair was not gimmicked with Cody and Shawn Spears. Cody was busted open.
No, I think that was gimmicked, but he just caught the edge, if I remember correctly.
No, I remember what happened. It was a regular, real, legit chair, or whatever chair they used.
Went through it.
And when he got hit, the flap of it also hit him. So if he had just gotten hit normally, it would have been fine, just like a regular chair shot. But either way, that was not a gimmick chair. And I can't tell you that this was a gimmick chair or not.
Well, it definitely looked different than the regular chairs they use, so I assumed it was gimmick. Plus, they clearly marked it. I figured that was a gimmick chair.
The chair to use.
Yeah, because I think they've gimmicked chairs before when we've done these unprotected headshots. So they don't do them a lot, and when they do, I think they do attempt to gimmick them. I digress. Fucking Darby comes back after scrambling around a little bit because he couldn't find what he was looking for, but he eventually found what he wanted: a gas can and a lighter. Darby goes over to Perry, dumps the gas on him, and then goes back, grabs the mark, and starts screaming at Perry that if he doesn't quit and give him a TNT title match at All In, he's going to light Perry on fire.
Going into business for himself right there, Darby Allin was.
Now, while all this is happening, Matthew Jackson is handcuffed to the other side of that particular ring, begging with Mark Briscoe to stop. Mark won't stop. He's like, you have to quit. And Matt's like, I'm not quitting. Eventually, Matthew turns his attention to begging Darby to stop. He's like, this has gone too far. It needs to stop. Darby's like, okay, give me my title match and quit. And Matthew's like, okay, fine. You have your title match. Don't light him on fire. And Darby's like, okay. but you have to quit or I'm going to light him on fire. And
No,
Matthews,
he says you have to say I quit.
quit.
And on a technicality, Team AEW should have lost that match.
All right, so no, because it's been established in other I Quit matches where the guy will have the microphone and he'll ask it. He'll say I quit, and it doesn't count. So precedent has been set that it can't be in quotation marks, and there can't be a question mark or an exclamation point at the end of it.
Yes. So, as I was saying, Darby tells Matthew he needs to quit or else he's going to light Jack on fire. And Matthew eventually gives in, saying I quit and giving Team AEW the win. Whew. All right, that was a lot.
First of all, bravo, Rev.
Thank you.
Great recap.
That was one of my better, longer reads, I think. But you guys did a good job of helping me break it up, so thank you. We're doing backstage stuff.
I would have broken it up more, but you were so quick. I couldn't find a word to get in edgewise. But like you said,
thank you. I was trying to get through it quickly because it was a lot.
No, you did great. You did great.
As I relax my
you can cycle back.
As I relax my voice here for a minute, James, this was a hell of a fucking match. I thought it was very creative, especially because when you do these once a year, it's hard to do stuff you don't necessarily see before. So I think they did a bunch of stuff we hadn't seen in this match. We brought back the staple gun, which I thought was a nice callback to Swerve and Hangman's previous, I think I quit match, which was cool. But I do know we were talking about this a bit before we got on the air. I do know you were a little disappointed in the ending because we have already seen Darby light somebody on fire. Ending this with just the threat of lighting somebody on fire seems a little lesser than to you.
Personally, yes. And I feel bad even complaining about it because I thought the match itself was so fun and it was so good. And they did a lot. They accomplished a lot with this matchup. But I feel this way about any match type that needs the I quit to end it. You see these guys go through so much throughout the entire match. And then typically whatever it is that actually ends the match, it never lives up to the rest of it. What was the I Quit match we had a little while ago that I had the same complaint? Yeah, go ahead.
Was it an AEW or WWE?
I don't know. I don't remember.
We had AJ Styles versus Cody Rhodes, which ended terribly. Cody threatened to hit him with the stairs. AJ said, I quit, and then I hit him with the stairs anyway. And that's really how you have to do it. Like, if you know what I mean? It's like a dick move on the good guy's part. But if John Cena didn't give the attitude adjustment to Batista onto the car, everyone would have been disappointed.
Exactly. It's a weird position to put yourself in. What?
I was looking up previous winners of Blood and Guts just to see how people won, although it's not telling me on the results page, but I saw the result of Royal Rampage. And you guys are not going to fucking believe who won.
Let's announce it with the spoiler. All
right, big spoilers for Royal Rampage on Friday. If
you already mentioned it.
We mentioned that Darby was in it. We didn't.
Oh, okay. Sorry,
and spoiler alert: fucking Darby won it again. Second year in a row, gets to face the AEW champion at Grand Slam.
Of course, it's going to be Swerve, so that sucks now.
And
now we know Brian's not going to win.
So you know what? I actually have to disagree.
Why would Brian and Swerve?
That man.
Why would Brian?
Hold on, you're both talking. What?
Go ahead, Matt.
Why would Darby and Brian have a match against each other?
For one, Brian loves wrestling young guys that he hasn't wrestled already. To my knowledge, he hasn't wrestled Darby. And not in a one-on-one situation. If Brian is going to win this title against Swerve, having a quick title reign is probably what was always going to be in the cards. I was saying all out. But if he wants to make it all the way to Grand Slam, and then he gives Darby his crowning moment at Grand Slam, that could be a big deal for everybody involved. I'm not saying it's gonna happen. It very well could be Swerve. They alluded to it happening tonight with them bickering before the match. But you've got a possible, I don't think it's as set in stone as you made it seem.
I think you're blinded by how much you want Brian to win the title, and we'll see what happens because I could be wrong. I don't know.
I am the first person. If I were to bet on wrestling, I am betting that Brian is going to lose to Swerve. That is my bet. But realistically, I don't think Darby winning is a sign one way or the other. Brian's whole thing has been wanting to wrestle people he's never wrestled and putting over a younger talent. Darby is without a doubt a part of the infrastructure of AEW's future. He is going to be around for a long time. So I could see him wanting to be the guy to give him that moment too. Because a win over Bryan Danielson for a world championship is a huge deal.
I don't see Darby in the position of being world champion at this moment. Like, I think he's been very hot in the past. He's still very popular right now. But I think he needs something else. Like, and this has really nothing to do with anything, but I've just been curious, like, what's with his wardrobe lately? Like, it's like he's doing the black. He's always done the black. And then, like, the pink. Black and pink go together. But, like, is he trying to, like, tell us all that, like, he's a feminist? Because, like, I'm a feminist, but I don't wear big, puffy pink jackets, especially
I think also cool.
all the time.
Say it again, Rev.
I think it just looks cool.
Yeah, I think you're looking too much into it. Like, I think he's a guy who paints his face, wears platform shoes that are probably a foot tall, and has a tattoo of a skeleton on his face. Like,
I can't believe he did that.
Yeah, I think
face tattoo.
So he was like, Cody has the worst tattoo. Hold my beer.
Challenge accepted.
But regardless, my whole point is, Brian or not, Darby or not, I don't think we still have an indicator who's going to win at All In. And beyond all that, getting back into the match at hand, Rev, you were going to say something though, but I said you guys were both talking at the same time.
Oh, I was just laughing at the fact that Darby fought this entire fucking match and then went out and did a battle royal and won.
Yeah.
And I know it's canonically on Friday, but like that's still really fucking funny to me.
God bless him. But very cool. The match itself, this Blood and Guts did something slightly different than previous Blood and Guts matches. Typically, when it came to Blood and Guts, we were seeing faction versus faction, Elite versus Blackpool Combat Club, Jericho Appreciation Society versus
Blackpool Combat
Club,
and the Pinnacle in the first year.
Yeah, versus the Inner Circle back then. But,
it was the Inner Circle. Sorry, yeah. Versus
so typically we would see faction versus faction. This was the first instance where we saw a bunch of different individuals coming together because they're all feuding with the other faction in some form. We have the Acclaimed who are going after the Bucks and the tag team titles. Now we have Darby against Jack Perry for the TNT title. We have Swerve, who's been basically just Team AEW this whole time. And, of course, he has the feud with Hangman. And then you have Mark Briscoe, who's just a good old boy. You know?
How does Mark Briscoe fit into this?
Being the heart and soul of Team AEW, baby. But
and he has no love lost for the Bucks. I mean, they went to wars for years.
Yeah. So I love that because you saw so many different stories playing out in this matchup. And I think it gave the ability for everybody to sort of highlight themselves. Like when we saw the Elite versus Blackpool Combat Club, there were certain bodies in that match just because there needed to be bodies in the match. Same thing with like the Jericho Appreciation Society versus the Blackpool Combat Club. Matt Maynard and Angelo Parker, they needed bodies on the Jericho Appreciation Society side.
Yeah, and you also can look at like for that one, Blackpool Combat Club, they needed allies, and you got Eddie and Santana and Ortiz, and obviously that went sideways for Santana, unfortunately. And then you could also look at last year's where you had Takeshita and Pac have to team up with the Blackpool Combat Club just because they didn't like the Elite, but they were still they just needed guys. This one, like you said, it was a group of people who came together. But and then obviously a faction plus Hangman who, has good. Well, he had good relations with those guys.
Sure,
that's a little rocky. He has a history with them at least.
And now coming out of this, there's more heat for all of these matchups at All In. Darby and Jack Perry, literal fire involved. The Bucks put Bowens through a table pretty harshly.
Also, gas can on a pole match for Darby and Perry.
Perry just surrenders. Now we're building towards most likely Hangman versus Okada with that buckshot lariat. Great moment in the match.
You mentioned storylines, between the teams. You have that storyline within that one team.
Exactly.
Which is really good.
I thought Swerve looked like a fucking maniac as he's getting stapled by everybody.
And he just laughed it off.
I've never seen a staple gun mosh pit before, but there you go. And it was epic. And then he overpowers them. I know there is an argument that Swerve has sort of been overlooked these last couple of months just because you have people like Ospreay and the return of MJF. I would argue Swerve has been the most consistent guy for them these last few months. He might not have the spotlight directly on him the entire time, but he is the one delivering week in, week out. And that's not a knock on MJF. That's not a knock on Will Ospreay. That's not a knock on anybody in the elite like Okada or whoever. It's just Swerve is the world champion for a reason. He is.
You don't question it. It's not like a Damian Priest scenario where you're just kind of like, should this guy be world champion? Shouldn't he be? And
I'm going to give the recent benefit of the doubt to Priest, though. He has come on very strong since his early reactions with the title.
I agree. He's a better champion today than he was when he won the belt. I'll give you that.
Yeah.
But Swerve is obviously, like Matt is alluding, I'd say, in a league of his own as a champion right now.
Oh, yeah. There was no questioning when Swerve won the title, and I don't think there's been any questioning since.
Exactly. Even the people who were so excited to see Will Ospreay debut, people were rooting for Swerve to retain.
Yep, I was.
Yeah, so I think it speaks to the champion he has developed into after already starting off as a strong champion that people wanted him to be. So I think this match made everybody look like a star. And hats off to Jack Perry. He was gonna allow himself to get burned. He was not gonna quit. Again. So hats off to Perry. I think they are doing a great job of making him look as much of a badass as he can. And yeah, man, Okada, he's the only one who kind of felt a little off in this match. Not that he did anything wrong. It's very clear his style doesn't really work or gel with a match like this.
So I was going to ask you about that because and Matt, maybe you can jump in here too because I know you watch New Japan. I don't think I can ever remember an Okada match where it was an Extreme Rules type of scenario.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
it was very interesting seeing him in this match. You very much noticed that he wasn't really taking anything involving a lot of the weapons outside of the staple gun in his middle finger. Yeah. So I thought that was pretty curious. I don't think he got put through any tables. He didn't deal with any barbed wire. The closest he came to being involved was he put the tacks in Castor's mouth. So I was curious to see how it was going to translate. And I thought he did, like you said, James, I thought he did okay. But because I don't, to my knowledge, he doesn't have that experience. It was definitely a new frontier for him.
Yeah, no. Matt, if you do want to jump in, go for it. But I will just say one thing. During his feud with Kenny, very early on in the feud, I think it was either first match or second match, probably first match because Kenny was more the heel at that point. They did incorporate a table into the feud that they had both traded being put through tables.
Yeah, I figured he'd been put through tables before, but nothing like this.
Japanese wrestling tables are American chairs. They are deadly. So it's not something to scoff at. What was that?
I said they were goofy looking. They're narrow and they almost look like pong tables.
And they're nothing to roll your eyes at. Yeah, but overall, Okada wrestles. He wrestles strong style. Like they're gonna beat the shit out of each other. They're gonna hit each other. But no, he doesn't really do the extreme style. He very rarely, if ever, blades. And then you contrast that to last year's Blood and Guts, which had Blackpool Combat Club versus the Elite, and you have
A bed of fucking nails.
you have Kota Ibushi, who was so disappointed he didn't do more hardcore stuff. After the match, he does a moonsault onto the bed of nails.
Yep.
So it's yeah,
With 2 broken ankles, I'm pretty sure.
God, that man. But overall, yes, I think he was the only odd man out. Last thing I want to say about this matchup, and it revolves to Swerve and Bryan. Bryan failed in his attempt at defending AEW against the Elite. Swerve led the charge, and they won, taking himself out to take Hangman out. So
you could say that, or you could say it was Darby who stepped up in his absence and ended up leading them to victory.
And that's something that could play into the future feud, no matter who it is, Swerve or Bryan. But regardless, I do think it is very telling that this team won and Bryan's team lost.
I was going to say I'm the smartest wrestler, but I don't want to get hit by a hidden blade. Were you saying that?
Yeah, go ahead, Matt.
I was going to say, yeah, Okada, I wouldn't say he was uncomfortable in the scenario, but like it's definitely not his bread and butter. Like even that one of the first moves he did, the pile driver onto the sign, it was a very safe pile driver, and that's not a criticism. That's literally just a statement. And even they had to change camera angles. They should have changed it like sooner. So it's more on the camera than Okada, but like a very safe pile driver. And even you guys are like giving people their props in this match. I really liked Mark Briscoe. I mean,
he was a madman.
Like he proved like he was worthy of being in this match, because I know there was some criticism like, oh, he's the ROH guy. Like, come on. I mean, those 4 J drillers in a row, and then the froggy bow through the table with such little real estate. And my favorite was probably the jumping cutter counter that we talked about.
On the TK driver.
Away, James. Yeah, that was literally what set off like a crazy just amount of moves.
That like 2-minute sequence of the cutter to counter the TK driver, and then the ollie on the skateboard, which eventually led to the golden scissors going across Jack Perry's mouth. That was just a chaotic like 2-minute sequence right before I think it was Okada came out. And
going back to Mark for a second too. That bit where he got thrown into the setup chair and then he used it to jump to the other ring for that clothesline. That was a great spot as well. So yeah, thank you for reminding me about Mark, who, by the way, will be defending the Ring of Honor World Championship on Friday at the Death Before Dishonor Ring of Honor pay-per-view.
That's on Friday?
Yep, that's on Friday, and he will... God, I am going to feel really weird if Roderick Strong wins the goddamn Ring of Honor title.
It would be a nice consolation prize for him, but I feel like his character development has like gone down since joining the Undisputed.
I agree. And it's not even his fault. It's just everything that goes with that group. But it's more just, man, unless you're going to put a mid-card title on Mark, just let him keep the Ring of Honor title.
Yeah, he's been doing a great job with it. So
Roderick, bring back the horn-rimmed glasses. That'll make me happy. I don't know if it'll save your character, but I think that's a way better choice than the clear ones.
Yeah.
He looks like a dork either way, so I think they're working.
It was still a cooler look, and I'm very dorky with these, like, you know me and my ring gear and my outfits, all that stuff. All those.
Matt's a particular guy.
Yeah.
Fair enough. I did want to jump in. I actually did a Twitter poll following the match.
Cool.
How would you rate AEW Blood and Guts? A, B, C, or D? We got 50% of the people who voted gave it A or NA. We had 35 giving it a B, and actually 15% with a D. No votes for C. So it was probably only like one vote or something, but very surprising we got a D. What did you guys give it? Because I truly enjoyed it. I'm going, A here, maybe A minus, but definitely in the 90s range, Matt.
I think it's, I don't always agree with him, but Bubba Ray Dudley says you only remember the finish. And I wouldn't necessarily say that's the case here, but the finish was definitely lacking. So I'd give it a B-.
All right, James, I know you didn't like to finish either.
I voted overall B. And I even if I had the option of a minus, I don't think I would do it. I enjoyed the matchup. It's my problem with any match that ends with an I quit. So it's unfair bias, I guess, on my end. And the overall show was good. I think it delivered from beginning to end. Just maybe next year we start integrating pins and submissions. Maybe.
I'd definitely be into that because I felt like this ending was a little bit sloppy. And it's like you said, James, Darby already used the flamethrower. I hope this does become a thing with Jack Perry's character that like he's afraid of fire.
That'd be fun.
It doesn't have to be every week, but like just every once in a while, like remind us of that.
Yeah.
And not only that, Eddie Kingston has like the best fire setup like of all time, or at least in AEW. You're not going to beat that, and Darby certainly didn't beat that tonight. So like, why even try?
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
Figure out a different ending. That's my take.
That's fair. And I will say now, well, I still have it up. This is the third of the 4 blood and guts matches that have ended via a quit statement. The first one with the Inner Circle against the Pinnacle, I think it was MJF was threatening to throw Jericho off the top of the cage. And I think it was Sammy ended up quitting for them. And then MJF threw him off anyway.
And that's what you do. You do it anyway.
Yep. The year after that was the only one that ended via submission because we had Claudio Castagnoli submitting somebody on the top of the cage.
Matt Maynard.
Yeah, Matt Maynard. Much to the initial disgust and then delight of Eddie Kingston. And then last year we had, I believe it was Moxley giving up on behalf of the Blackpool Combat Club because the Golden Elite were going to murder Wheeler Yuta. So of these 3 quits now, it was somebody else quitting on behalf of the health of a teammate as well.
Yeah.
So maybe some more submissions in the future. Because, James, I know you want pinfalls. I'm kind of cool without them. This is in an attempt to distinguish this from War Games. But yeah, definitely a little more variety in the ending here, guys. Like maybe somebody actually quits because, you know, they have to physically say I quit because their ankle is going to get snapped off or something.
Yeah. Yeah, just something. I don't know. We saw somebody have thumbtacks in their mouth and they didn't quit. You know, that it is what it is.
Yeah.
But he couldn't say I quit because there was too many thumbtacks in his mouth.
You grumble it. You grumble it out.
He couldn't. It was the match hadn't started yet.
Yeah, true. That is also true.
I couldn't remember that part or not.
The match, yeah, no, it was before Swerve entered the ring, or before the bell was wrong. Actually.
Yeah, gotcha.
The bell was wrong before Swerve entered the ring, but that was because the EVPs dubbed it so. But on that note, that was Dynamite. So, guys, obviously the majority of the show was blood and guts, and I think, as we just said, we thought it was pretty good. If not, I thought it was good. The rest of the show, I thought, did a good job. It was kind of a reverse of last week where, you know, we had the really big hour-long match to start, and everything after that was kind of slow up until the end to kind of let people breathe after such a long and excruciating match. And this week was the opposite, where it was a bit slow. They set up a lot of good things beforehand as we head towards All In. And then obviously we have this big long match with all of the literal blood and guts in it, James. So I think we did a good job tonight. Outside of the blood and guts match itself, I think that was it the women's match actually was probably the best one. Dr. Britt Baker and Hikaru Shida was actually the best match of the night, outside of obviously blood and guts. And then Tony and Mariah had a good segment. So I actually kind of feel like the women sort of stole the show outside of blood and guts, or at least the first hour.
I strongly agree. And again, we've been talking ever since Mercedes debuted. We've been seeing these women being highlighted more. And they're not doing anything differently. They're just putting on the same quality that they've been putting on all this time.
Now they just have the opportunity.
Exactly. They have the opportunity and they have the spotlight on them. So great showing for the women. Great way to start the show with MJF and Will Ospreay. And that Brian seed, man, is just going to keep growing in my head.
First you plant the seed, then you fuck shit out of the seed.
Yeah.
They definitely threw a carrot out in front of you with this one, and you're gonna follow it all the way to the end.
I've been starving for a long time.
Yeah. Matt, I know that you didn't see the entirety of the show, which is why you joined us about halfway through ours as well. But of what you did see, what'd you think of that on top of the Blood and Guts match?
I enjoyed it. I mean, I've been a little bit out of the loop. Missed the last couple episodes, so but I haven't been like completely lost. So it was just nice to jump back in and be like, oh, things are progressing and this is good. So let's just keep progressing and we'll get to All In, which I can't wait for.
Yeah, All In is definitely looking exciting as we have about a month until that, which is pretty crazy. But
thank God, because I was getting a little worried that All In's build was going to get buried by Blood and Guts. But with a month to go, there's plenty of time to build story.
Yeah, and this feels like one of the earlier pay-per-view cycles of AEW where pay-per-views were quarterly and we had the big Dynamite in between them. And then we had, build up to big Dynamite and then a month and another big and build up to the pay-per-view. And I think that's what we're getting here. We've had some extended build up with a couple of different feuds here, as we obviously had the Bryan set up, but Swerve has been busy. So now that's got time to breathe as we head towards that. We've allowed Ospreay and MJF to, not only did they plant that seed in water, it has blossomed into a big old tree and it's going to keep growing some branches. So we've and obviously Mariah and Tony has had a whole long time to breathe. But now that this turn has happened, starting at last week, and now we've got even more time to let that go as well. Just a lot of long-term planning between these last two shows and now heading into All In, that I think All In is going to have a phenomenal build and it's going to be a phenomenal pay-per-view, and I'm very, very excited for it.
Absolutely.
Last thing I want to get to is the poll that was here on our YouTube channel in the comments. Did you enjoy tonight's AEW Dynamite Blood and Guts? 71% of the people, it was just 69. I'm a little disappointed.
Damn.
71% of the people said yes. Apparently 29% of the people did not watch. So either you're not an AEW fan or you were an AEW fan and you really liked the show. And I think that is a good thing that at least the people who did watch did enjoy this episode. All right. Anything else before we get out of here, guys? Or should I hit the rundown?
We will be, most likely the three of us will all be at House of Glory on Friday.
Yep.
Are you driving there?
Most likely, but we'll talk about that after.
Cool.
But we will
don't need to discuss our travel plans on it.
we will do our best to have content from that show. And guys, I think I'm allowed to say it. We are very close to hitting 1,000 subscribers.
Woo!
So we are very grateful for each and every one of you. If we're going to do the spiel. If you like this video, please hit that like button. And if you're new to us, please hit subscribe. That way you can join the fam. We are coming up with some really fun stuff once we hit that 1,000 mark. We got a lot of fun ideas brewing. So the sooner we can get there, the better for all of us, the more fun the channel is going to get. And who knows, you know it coming in. You know it. Haven't seen you in a minute, bro. But thank you for being here. And thank you for that. We really, really appreciate you. Just got off work.
And restart the show. Yeah, let's just do our last 2 hours all over again. Also, appreciate the super chat. You know it. Thank you very much. That is a new addition here at the podcast that you can do. If you want to super chat, we will get to your chat as soon as quick possible ahead of the other ones. Well, at least that's the plan.
We just make $10.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know it. Loyal subscriber. Loyal subscriber, you know it.
Always awesome to have you here. You know it. Definitely check out the video too, because we had fun with this one.
Yep, and with those super chats, we're also going to have some new things coming to the podcast. James and I discussed it a bit last week here on air, but we might be having some things for premium subscribers. Once we figure all that out, we will let you guys know. You will be getting the same content that you do get here now. We will be going live after shows, pay-per-views and stuff. We won't put that behind paywalls. That's a dick move.
Absolutely.
But we might put some other content behind some stuff if you guys end up being premium subscribers. But we will let you guys know if and when that happens. We just got to that tier. We're just figuring it out. So when we figure it out, we'll let you guys know, and hopefully you guys will enjoy all of that. But as James said, thank you for watching the show here tonight. If you liked what you saw tonight, please like the video, and if you want to subscribe to get all of those updates about all our new fun stuff coming out, please do so. If you want to check us out on our social media platforms, and you're here on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok are all in the description below. If you are not here on YouTube, you're listening to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or you're over on our Facebook, you can check us out on Twitter. It is at marketdown_pod. If you want to check us out on Instagram, it's at marketdownpod. And if you want to follow us on YouTube, it is youtube.com/marketdown3665. James, do we have any giveaways coming up in the near future?
I think after Friday, we likely will. I don't want to spoil it yet. Once we get it, we'll definitely. But it's going to be a fun one, especially if you're a Wednesday night fan. And we'll see about some other fun stuff we could do. The guys saw for the first time. I have an entire drawer full of stuff that I am ready to give away to you guys for free. So just bear with us a little bit longer.
Yep. Did we give away the book and stuff?
It's on me. I'm finally back on my feet and being a normal person again. So I will announce the winner for the book very soon.
All right. Sounds good. Bye, you know it. Good to see
you,
buddy. Thanks for checking in, even though you got here late.
No, it's awesome.
So yeah, guys, be on the lookout for that. We will actually get those done. We promise you. If you've entered, you're entered. Don't worry. We'll work all of that out. Any other stuff before we go?
No, just check us out for House of Glory on Friday. Go watch Deadpool and Wolverine. Excellent movie. And guys, have a good night.
Yeah, we'll definitely be on our socials for House of Glory. So, like I said, follow us on there. You'll get some cool content out of that. All right. So, for Matt Cascone, producer boy Eric Casanti, who left, and James Casanti, my name is Nick Cummings. Thank you so much for watching us here at the Market Down Podcast. Have a good night, everybody, and let's go Mets.
What? No.